The Kavor hegemony had ruled the stars for longer than most species could remember. Their empire stretched across thousands of worlds, built on the bones of those who had dared to resist. Their ships were like claws of iron, their warriors bred for conquest, and their will unbreakable. Until now. Admiral Torvak stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Iron Maw, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. His eyes, black and sharp like obsidian shards, scanned the star charts flickering in the air before him. Solsystem, a name that meant nothing just a few cycles ago. Now it was the subject of urgent briefings and hushed debates in the High Council chambers. Reports spoke of a species confined to a single planet, sending out weak signals and clumsy metal probes into the void. They called themselves humans, primitive, disorganized, harmless, or so the initial assessments claimed. Torvak was not a man who trusted reports. He trusted results, and the Council had given him 3 of the finest warships in the fleet, Iron Maw, Shadowfang, and Crimson Talon, to deal with this anomaly. Not to study it, not to negotiate, to assess and, if necessary, erase it. The Kivor did not tolerate unknowns. Unknowns became threats. Threats became graves. Approaching the outer edge of the Sol system, announced Lieutenant Vrex from the sensor station. His voice carried the usual confidence of a Kivor officer, but Torvak noticed the slight tension in his posture. Even the young ones sensed something odd about this mission. Activate long-range scans, Torvak ordered. Focus on the 3rd planet. That is where their main population resides. The bridge hummed as energy surged through the ship's systems. Outside the armored viewport, the blackness of space stretched endlessly, dotted with distant stars. Ahead, a yellow star burned steadily, Sol, the human sun. It looked ordinary, unremarkable, just like the species that orbited it. Within minutes, the scans returned. The 3rd planet, Earth, was covered in cities, networks of light and metal sprawling across continents. Atmospheric composition, breathable. Population estimate over 7 billion. Technological level, pre-warp, based on propulsion signatures and energy output. No signs of planetary defenses. No orbital weapons platforms. No fleet. Torvak allowed himself a slow exhale. It was as expected. These humans were children playing with fire, unaware of the predators watching from the dark. Broadcast the standard subjugation signal, he commanded. Let them know their time of ignorance ends now. The signal was simple. A repeating pulse of energy carrying a single message in every known language, including the crude human tongues. Surrender or be removed. It had worked on hundreds of worlds before. Most species chose surrender. Those who didn't lasted only minutes. They waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. No response, no panic, no frantic transmissions. Just the same background noise of human chatter, music, news, idle conversation, as if nothing had changed. Perhaps their systems are too primitive to receive it, suggested Commander Kale. Torvak's second in command, or they are ignoring us, Torvak replied, his voice low. That was unusual. Most species reacted with fear the moment they detected a Kavor vessel. Fear led to mistakes. Mistakes led to swift conquest. Move the fleet inward, Torvak ordered. Form a triangle around Mars' orbit. Let them see us. The 3 dreadnoughts glided forward, their massive forms blotting out stars as they entered the inner system. They passed the gas giants without slowing. Jupiter loomed large, its red storm swirling like an ancient eye. Still no human ships appeared. No missiles launched. No warnings, Admiral, said Vrex, his voice tighter now. I am detecting faint energy spikes near the asteroid belt. Irregular patterns. Not natural. Analyze, Torvak said. Before Vrex could respond, the lights on the bridge flickered. A low hum filled the air, not from the ship's engines, but from somewhere outside. It was subtle, almost musical, but wrong, like metal groaning under impossible stress. Shields up, Torvak snapped. Too late. From the darkness behind Mars, something moved. Not a ship. Not one, but dozens, hundreds of small, angular craft, black as void with no running lights. They emerged silently like ghosts and surrounded the Kavor fleet in seconds. How? Kale hissed. Our sensors saw nothing. Jamming field, Vrex said, his claws digging into the console. But it's not just blocking signals, it's bending space around them. They were hiding in warped pockets. Torvak's blood ran cold. This was not primitive technology. This was advanced. Dangerously so. Weapons online. Target the nearest hostiles, he barked. Turrets swiveled, plasma cannons charged. But before they could fire, the human craft unleashed a barrage unlike anything the Kavor had ever faced. Beams of blue-white light sliced through space, not exploding on impact, but phasing through the outer hull as if it were mist. Inside the Iron Maw, alarms shrieked. Bulkheads melted. Crew members screamed as their armor fused with their flesh. "They're bypassing our shields," Kyle shouted. "It's like they know our frequency harmonics." Torvak gripped the railing. "Full retreat." Jump engines, a massive shockwave rocked the ship. The Crimson Talon to starboard erupted in a silent fireball, torn apart from the inside out. The Shadowfang tried to flee, but its engines sputtered and died, its hull twisting unnaturally as if gripped by invisible hands. On the view screen, a single human vessel appeared. Larger than the others, shaped like a blade, it hovered calmly amid the chaos. No markings, no communication, just watching. Torvak opened his mouth to issue a final order, but the bridge lights died. Gravity failed. The last thing he saw was the human ship turning slowly toward them, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. Then, nothing, hours later, deep in the void near Neptune's orbit. A single escape pod drifted. Inside, Lieutenant Vrex clutched a data crystal, his body broken, his mind fractured. With trembling hands, he activated the emergency beacon, sending one final message back to Kivor space before the pod's power faded. The message contained only sensor logs, fragmented audio, and a single sentence scrawled in Kivor script. "They were waiting for us." But the beacon never reached its destination. Halfway through its journey, it was intercepted by a small, silent drone that matched its trajectory perfectly. The drone absorbed the data, erased the pod's signal, and vanished back into the dark. On Earth, in a hidden command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, General Dale McKinney watched the final feed from the Sol defense grid. The last Kavor ship had been neutralized. No survivors. No debris left to trace. "Clean sweep," said Dr. Lisa Tran, standing beside him, her arms crossed. "Just like the others." McKinney nodded. "Good, let the galaxy wonder what happened. Let them send more. We'll be ready." Above them, the stars burned cold and distant, and somewhere out there the legend was already beginning to spread. No one returned after engaging humanity. Back at the Kavor High Command, silence had become a kind of terror. Admiral Torvak's fleet, 3 of the Empire's most powerful dreadnoughts, had vanished without a trace. No distress calls, no wreckage, not even a single escape pod. For a civilization that prided itself on total control, this was unthinkable. Whispers turned to shouts in the council chambers. Some called it sabotage, others blamed cosmic anomalies. But Commander Lyra Vox knew better. She had studied the last known coordinates, the faint energy echoes picked up by deep space monitors. Something had happened out there. Something deliberate. Lyra was not like most Kavor officers. She did not believe in blind conquest. She believed in observation, in patience, and understanding before striking. That was why the Council, desperate and humiliated, gave her command of the Iron Talon, a fast, stealth-capable cruiser, and ordered her to find out what happened to Torvak's fleet. But with strict instructions: do not engage. Do not reveal your presence. Watch. Learn. Return. The Iron Talon slipped into the Sol system under cloak. Its hull cooled to near ambient temperature, its engines running on minimal power. Lyra stood on the bridge, her sharp eyes fixed on the main display. Space here looked peaceful. The sun glowed softly. Planets turned in their orbits. It all seemed normal. Too normal. "Scans show no active military traffic," reported Ensign Kor, his voice steady but his tail twitching nervously. "No fleet movements. No orbital defenses. Just civilian satellites and old debris." Lyra frowned. "Debris from what?" "From past human missions," Kor replied. "Probes, stations, dead rockets. Nothing recent." She walked to the sensor station and studied the data herself. The readings were clean. Almost too clean. As if someone had swept the system after a battle. But there was no sign of one. No radiation spikes. No plasma trails, nothing. "Move us closer to Mars," she said. "Stay in the shadow of Phobos." The ship glided silently through the void, its thrusters barely whispering. As they neared the red planet, Kor suddenly stiffened. "Commander, I'm picking up faint metallic signatures, scattered, irregular, bearing 2 on 17 by 44. Magnify." The display zoomed in. Among the dust and rock of the Martian orbit, Tiny fragments glinted in the sunlight. Lyra's breath caught. She recognized the alloy. Kavor-grade durasteel fused with something else. Something unknown. The edges were melted in strange patterns as if exposed to energy that didn't burn, but unraveled matter at the atomic level. "That's from the Iron Maw," she whispered. "Or what's left of it." Her crew fell silent. Fear, cold and quiet, settled over the bridge. "Run a spectral analysis on the residue," Lyra ordered, "and scan for any residual energy fields." Minutes passed. Then Kor spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's a low-frequency hum in the background. Not mechanical. Not natural. It's structured. Like a signal, but not meant for ears." "Record it," Lyra said, "and keep scanning." As they worked, something changed in the human transmissions. Before, their broadcasts had been chaotic. Music, voices, advertisements, news about weather and sports. Now the airwaves were different. Calmer. Sharper. Military channels crackled with coded messages, short and precise. One phrase repeated often: "Sector clear." Another: "Standby Alpha." It was as if the entire planet had shifted from sleep to alert in the blink of an eye. "They know we're here," Lyra said, though she knew it wasn't true. They hadn't detected the Iron Talon, but they were ready for something. "Commander," Kor said suddenly, "a vessel just emerged from behind Jupiter." Lyra spun around. "How big?" "Small. Maybe 1/10 our mass. No visible weapons. No engine flare. It just appeared." On the screen, the ship hung in space like a black knife. Smooth. Silent. No lights. No markings. It didn't move toward them. It didn't broadcast. It simply turned its prow in their direction as if looking. "Activate full stealth," Lyra ordered. "Shut down non-essential systems. Go dark." The Iron Talon went silent. Lights dimmed. Life support dropped to minimum. Even the crew held their breath. For 10 long minutes, nothing happened. The human ship remained still. Then, without warning, it vanished. Not with a jump flare or warp distortion, just gone as if it had never been there. "Where did it go?" Lyra demanded. "I don't know," Kor said, his claws trembling over the console. "Sensors show nothing, but—" "Commander, our cloak is failing." "What?" "It's like something is peeling it away. Layer by layer. Not jamming. Not hacking. Just undoing it." Alarms blared softly. The stealth field collapsed. The Iron Talon was exposed. "Jump engines, now!" Lyra shouted. "Engines unresponsive," Kor cried. "They're locked." By something external, Lyra's heart pounded. This was not warfare as she knew it. This was something else. Something that didn't fight, it unraveled. "Send a distress burst," she ordered. "Full encryption. Include all sensor logs." Before the message could transmit, the view screen flickered. A new image appeared. Not from their sensors, but projected directly into their comms array. It showed Earth. Not the blue marble they expected, but a planet ringed with hidden platforms, half buried in asteroids, cloaked in lunar craters. Ships, hundreds of them, docked in secret bays beneath the ice of Europa and Enceladus. This was no primitive world. This was a fortress. Then the image changed. It showed Torvak's fleet, moments before destruction. The human ships didn't fire beams or missiles. They released clouds of nanoscopic machines that ate through hulls like acid through paper. They used gravity pulses to crush engines from the inside. They hacked Kavor systems through the very frequencies their shields used to stabilize. The humans hadn't just defended. They had dissected. The transmission ended. The screen went black. "We're being boarded," Kor said, his voice hollow. Lyra turned. Through the viewport, tiny shapes detached from the darkness. Human boarding pods, silent and fast. They latched onto the Iron Talon's hull like spiders. "Seal the bridge," she ordered. "Prepare for—" The lights died. Gravity cut out. The air grew cold. Outside, the stars seemed to dim, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. In the final moments, Lyra recorded a voice log on her personal device. Her voice was calm, though her hands shook. "If this is found, know this. Humanity is not what we believed. They are not prey. They are predators who chose to hide. They let us come. They let us look, and now they are taking us apart to see how we work. Tell the Council, do not send more fleets. Do not speak their name, just run." She sealed the device in an escape pod and launched it on a random trajectory. Then she sat in the dark, waiting. Hours later, The pod drifted past Saturn's rings, its signal weak but steady. It carried Lyra's warning, her data, her fear. But before it could reach Cavor space, a small drone, black, silent, shaped like a blade, matched its course. It opened a panel, absorbed the data crystal, and crushed the pod into dust. On Earth, in a quiet room deep beneath the Nevada desert, Captain Jake Ellis reviewed the new intel from the captured Cavor logs. Beside him, Maria Lopez, the linguist who had spent years decoding alien dialects, listened to Lyra's final message. She understood, Maria said softly. Good, Jake replied. Maybe now they'll think twice. Outside, the sun rose over the mountains. Birds sang. Cars drove on highways. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth still looked harmless. Just another blue dot in the endless dark. But those who had come to test it never came back, and the silence they left behind spoke louder than any war cry. Panic spread through the Cavor hegemony like fire through dry grass. 5 fleets had vanished. No wreckage, no survivors. Only silence. The High Council, once proud and unshakable, now argued in hushed, fearful tones. Some demanded total war. Others begged for retreat. But pride would not let them run, not yet. They sent more ships, bigger, faster, angrier. Each one disappeared just like the others. It was as if Sol Systems swallowed them whole and never burped. On Earth, life went on as usual for most people. They walked their dogs, went to work, watched movies, and complained about traffic. They did not know about the war being fought far beyond the moon. They did not know that humanity had been preparing for this moment for over 60 years. Deep underground, beneath mountains and deserts and frozen lakes, the United Earth Defense Command watched every move the Cavor made. They had eyes everywhere, on Mars, in the rings of Saturn, even floating near Pluto. And they were ready. General Dale McKinney stood in the central war room, a large chamber lit by soft blue lights. Maps of the solar system covered the walls, dotted with tiny markers showing Cavor movements. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Tran studied a data pad, her brow furrowed in thought. She was not a soldier. She was a scientist, but she had helped design the weapons that were now tearing the Cavor apart. They're sending another fleet, Lisa said. Bigger than before. Over 200 ships, McKinney nodded. Let them come. You're not worried? She asked. I was worried when we first found that alien wreck in the asteroid belt back in 2048, he said. We spent decades learning from it, building from it, hiding from it. Now we own it. And anyone who comes here uninvited gets a lesson they won't survive. Years ago, a derelict ship, old, broken, not of human make, had been found drifting near Ceres. It was dead, its crew long gone, but its tech was alive. Humanity studied it in secret. They copied its power cores, its shield harmonics, its matter-folding drives. They built their own fleet in hidden shipyards far from public view. No one knew. Not even most governments. Only a small group of scientists, engineers, and soldiers. They called it Project Sentinel. And its only rule was simple. Never show your hand until you have to. Now, they had to. When the Cavor sent a diplomatic envoy, a single ship flying white flags, broadcasting peace messages, humanity did not respond with words. Instead, a small drone launched from a hidden bay near the moon. It flew silently to the envoy ship and docked without resistance. The Cavor, confused but hopeful, allowed it. Inside the drone was no bomb, no weapon, just data.terabytes of footage, recordings from every battle the Cavor had ever fought, videos of entire worlds burning, children screaming, cities turned to glass. The drone uploaded it all into the envoy ship's main computer. Then it sent a copy to every major news network on Earth, every alien listening post within 50 light years, and every rebel group fighting the hegemony. The message was clear. We know what you are. And we will not be your next victim. The envoy ship tried to flee. It didn't make it past the orbit of Venus. A human stealth cutter intercepted it and disabled its engines. No shots were fired. No lives were taken. The Cavor crew was left alive, stranded, forced to watch as their own crimes played on loop across the galaxy. Back on Cavor Prime, riots broke out. Enslaved species rose up. Loyal governors questioned the Council's judgment. The myth of Cavor invincibility cracked like thin ice. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Jake Ellis prepared his ship, the Ares, for what came next. It was not a warship in the old sense. It had no giant guns or thick armor. Instead, it carried swarms of micro-drones, gravity lenses, and phase-shift missiles that could slip through any shield by matching its quantum frequency. His crew trained for years in silence, in darkness, in patience. They knew their job was not to win battles. It was to make sure there were no second chances. Maria Lopez, the linguist, worked with a team that had broken into the Kivor communication network. They didn't just listen. They planted false orders, fake retreat signals, and phantom fleet sightings. Entire Kivor squadrons turned on each other, thinking they were under attack by rebels. The chaos spread faster than any virus. "They're scared," Maria told Jake over a secure line. "They keep asking each other, what are the humans? Why don't they talk? Why don't they negotiate?" "Because we learned from you," Jake replied. "You never talked to the species you crushed. You just erased them. Now it's your turn to wonder what's coming." The final blow came when the Kivor launched their last great armada. 212 warships led by Grand Admiral Vorlak himself descended on the Sol system like a storm. They expected resistance. They expected a fight. What they found was a trap. As they crossed the orbit of Uranus, human minds, tiny, invisible, powered by stolen Kivor tech, detonated in sequence. Not with fire, but with localized time dilation fields. Ships slowed to a crawl, their crews aging decades in seconds. Others were caught in gravity wells that folded space around them, crushing them like tin cans. The Ares and its sister ships waited near Saturn. When the Kivor fleet entered the ring system, Jake gave the order. Thousands of autonomous fighters, no bigger than cars, swarmed out from hidden bays in the ice moons. They moved like a school of fish, dodging fire, slipping inside shield harmonics, and planting resonance charges on engine cores. One by one, the Kivor ships tore themselves apart from the inside. Vorlak's flagship lasted the longest. It fired everything it had: plasma beams, kinetic lances, even a forbidden singularity projector. But the human ships danced around it, untouchable. Then a single-phase missile struck its bridge, not by exploding, but by shifting the molecules of the hull out of sync with reality. The ship didn't blow up. It unraveled, like a sweater pulled apart thread by thread. 6 hours after the battle began, it was over. Not a single Kivor ship remained. No escape pods. No signals. Just drifting metal and silence. On Earth, no one celebrated. There were no parades. No speeches. The people in the war room simply logged the victory and began preparing for the next threat. Because they knew. The galaxy was full of empires. And now, all of them had heard the story. No one returned after engaging humanity. After the great battle near Saturn, the Kivor hegemony did not just lose ships, it lost its soul. The defeat was so complete, so absolute, that it shattered the belief that had held their empire together for centuries, that they were the strongest. Now their own subject worlds rose up. Rebellions flared on a dozen planets. Governors turned on each other. The High Council fractured into warring factions, each blaming the others for the disaster at Sol. Some whispered that the humans were not just another species. They were something older, something hidden, waiting in the dark for the right moment to strike. Fear spread faster than any fleet ever could, but humanity did not chase them. They did not send ships to burn Kivor worlds or demand surrender. They simply stayed in their system, quiet and watchful. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth remained a mystery, a blue dot that swallowed armies and gave nothing back. Traders avoided the Sol system. Scouts changed course when they saw its star on their charts. Even pirates who feared nothing crossed themselves when someone mentioned the humans. Still, not everyone was afraid. Some were curious. Others were desperate. A small delegation from the Zenthari Collective, a peaceful alliance of plant-based beings from the Spiral Arm, sent a message. Not a demand, not a threat, just a simple request. We wish to speak. We mean no harm. They attached proof of their peaceful history. Centuries of trade, no wars, no weapons beyond basic defense drones. On Earth, the United Earth Defense Command debated. General Dale McKinney wanted to ignore them. Dr. Lisa Tran argued they should respond. If we shut out everyone, she said, we become the monsters they think we are. In the end, they agreed to a meeting. But not on Earth. Not even in orbit. They chose a neutral point. A dead moon near the edge of the system, far from any human installations. The Zenthari ship arrived first, small and green-hulled, shaped like a seed pod. It hovered gently above the gray dust. Then, from the darkness behind Pluto, a human vessel appeared, not a warship. A sleek white craft with no visible weapons. It landed smoothly 100 meters away. A ramp lowered. Out stepped Captain Jake Ellis and Maria Lopez. They wore simple uniforms, no armor, no sidearms. The Xanthari envoy, a tall, leafy being with soft, glowing eyes, approached slowly. Through a translator it spoke. "We come in peace. We only wish to understand," Maria smiled. "So do we." They talked for hours. About stars. About life. About the cost of war. The Xanthari shared stories of their world, of how they grew cities from living wood and sang to their young in frequencies only plants could hear. Jake spoke of Earth's oceans, of mountains, of children playing in parks while their parents worked. It was the first real conversation humanity had ever had with another species. When it ended, the Xanthari left with a gift. A data crystal containing basic scientific knowledge. Medicine, clean energy, crop rotation. No weapons. No military tech, just help. And a message. "We are not your enemy. But do not test us." Word of the meeting spread. Slowly, carefully, other species reached out. The Varelians, a race of amphibious traders, offered rare minerals in exchange for medical aid. The Orlan hive mind sent a single drone carrying a question. "Why did you not conquer the Kavor?" The answer came back, "Because we are not them." Meanwhile, deep in Kavor space, the last loyalist fleet gathered. Led by Warlord Krex, a brutal commander who refused to believe in human superiority, they planned one final strike. Not with honor. Not with warning. With stealth and poison. They would launch a virus, a nanotech plague designed to eat human flesh and metal alike, into Earth's atmosphere from a cloaked ship. They would burn the planet from the inside. But they did not know that Maria Lopez and her team had already cracked the Kivor emergency broadcast network. They heard every order, every plan, every curse. When Krex's ship jumped toward Sol, it was met not by surprise but by a wall of human destroyers waiting just beyond Neptune. This time, humanity did not hide. They showed their full strength. Over 50 warships emerged from hidden docks in the Kuiper Belt, their hulls gleaming, their weapons humming with power. The Kavor ship tried to flee. It lasted 3 minutes. Then it was gone, pulled apart by tractor beams and dissected for intelligence. The message was sent back to Kavor space in every language. This ends now. After that, even the warlords fell silent. On Earth, life remained calm. Cities grew. Children went to school. Farmers planted crops. But beneath the surface, the Sentinel program never slept. New ships were built. New defenses tested. The Sol Accords were drafted not by politicians, but by scientists, soldiers, and thinkers who remembered what happened when the galaxy ignored the weak. General McKinney stood one evening on a hill in Colorado, looking up at the stars. Beside him, Dr. Tran handed him a cup of coffee. "Do you think they'll ever come again?" She asked. "Someone always will," he said. "But now they'll think twice." And in the quiet night, with the wind rustling through the pines, the truth settled like dust. Humanity was no longer prey. They were the guardians of their own sky, and the galaxy had learned the hardest lesson of all. No one returned after engaging humanity. Years passed. The stars did not change, but the way the galaxy saw them did. Once the Sol system was just another quiet corner of the void, home to a noisy, scattered species that barely knew how to leave its own world. Now it was a place of legend. Ships from a dozen different civilizations passed through the outer rim of the system, not with weapons raised, but with transponders broadcasting peaceful codes. They asked for permission before entering. They waited for replies. They followed the rules. Because they had all heard the story and none wanted to become part of it. On Earth, life went on as it always had. People woke up, went to work, raised families, and dreamed of better days. Most never knew about the war that had been fought in the dark, far beyond the moon. They didn't need to. The men and women who guarded the edge of human space made sure of that. In hidden bases beneath the ice of Antarctica, inside hollowed-out asteroids and deep within the silent craters of the moon, the United Earth Defense Command watched. They listened. They prepared. But they did not seek war. They only made sure no one else would bring it to them. General Dale McKinney had retired, though he still visited the command centers from time to time. His hair was gray now, his steps slower, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. He often sat with Dr. Lisa Tran in the observation lounge of Lunar Station Echo, sipping tea and watching alien freighters glide past in perfect formation. They never spoke much. They didn't have to. They had seen what silence could cost and what vigilance could save. Captain Jake Ellis still commanded the Ares, though the ship had been upgraded twice since the HFY War. He no longer led fleets into battle. Now his job was diplomacy of a different kind. When a new species approached Sol Space unsure and nervous, it was Jake who met them, not with guns but with open channels and calm words. He showed them the truth. Humanity was not a monster. They were survivors, and they would protect their home with everything they had, but they would not take what was not theirs. Maria Lopez had become the head of First Contact Protocols. Her team now included linguists, historians, and even poets, people who understood that communication was more than just words. They built bridges where others saw walls. When the Silthuri, a nomadic species of star whale riders, drifted near the Oort cloud, lost and starving, it was Maria who sent them food, medicine, and star charts to guide them home. In return, the Silthari gifted humanity a song, a deep, resonant hum that could calm solar flares. It was played once a year on the anniversary of the last battle, not as a warning but as a promise. Peace was possible. The Sol Accords, once just a set of emergency guidelines, had grown into a real framework for coexistence. Neutral trade zones were established near Jupiter's moons. Medical outposts opened on Mars, serving humans and aliens alike. Even former HFY slaves, now free after their empire's collapse, came to Sol Space seeking refuge. They were given shelter, not because humanity forgot what the hegemony had done, but because they understood what it meant to be broken and to rebuild. Still, not everyone trusted the new order. Rumors spread in the darker corners of the galaxy. Some said the humans were biding their time, gathering strength to conquer others. Others claimed their kindness was a trick, a lure to draw enemies close before destroying them. But those who came to see for themselves always left with a different story. They spoke of clean cities, of children waving from schoolyards, of scientists sharing knowledge freely. They saw no armies marching, no weapons pointed at the stars, only quiet strength and the unspoken truth that hung in every interaction. Do not mistake our peace for weakness. One evening, a small vessel from the far rim arrived at the Sol border. It carried no weapons, no cargo, only a single passenger, an old HFY scholar named Vrel. He had spent his life studying history, not war. He came not to fight, but to ask a question. He was granted an audience on the moon. Sitting across from Maria Lopez in a sunlit room with a view of Earth, he spoke softly through a translator. Why did you not destroy us completely? We would have done the same to you. Maria looked out at the blue planet below. Because we learned from you, she said. You showed us what happens when fear rules. We chose something else. Vrel bowed his head. He stayed for 3 days, learning, listening. When he left, he carried with him not just data, but hope. Back in HFY space, he wrote a book. It was called The Silence That Spoke. It told the true story of humanity, not as demons, but as a people who had stared into the abyss and refused to become it. In the years that followed, more scholars came, more traders, more friends. The Sol system became a crossroads, not of conquest, but of curiosity, and through it all, the legend remained, not as a threat, but as a lesson. From their post on the far side of the moon, Jake and Maria often watched the ships come and go. They never spoke of the battles they had fought. They didn't need to. The quiet sky above them said it all. No one returned after engaging humanity. But those who came in peace, they always left wiser.